or more enjoyable. And Gratitude Month hopes to provide little ways to help recognize those people around us.
Each department will receive a packet with instructions and materials for their common room, including things like a gratitude wall or simple tearaways to help say thank you to someone. We hope you'll take advantage of these opportunities to recognize those around you for their contributions.
Keep an eye open for emails announcing the start of the campaign, as well as the arrival of those packets in your office.
And remember that the employee engagement team is open to anyone, and we're always looking for new members. If you'd like to be part of what we're doing or have comments or questions, you can reach us at employee_engagement@mendocinocounty.gov. Hi, I'm Russ.
And I'm Lori.
And we're part of the Employee Engagement Team. The Employee Engagement Team is a voluntary group that's made up of county staff across all levels and from all departments.
This team is the one that puts together the annual employee survey, which helps us find ways to help employees feel heard and appreciated.
In connection with the employee survey, we want to announce the engagement team's spring campaign, which we're calling Gratitude Month. Gratitude Month provides some simple ways for staff to show appreciation to those they work with every day for their help and support.
We all have great colleagues that we work with that make our jobs a little easier or more enjoyable. And Gratitude Month hopes to provide little ways to help recognize those people around us.
Each department will receive a packet with instructions and materials for their common room, including things like a gratitude wall or simple tearaways to help say thank you to someone. We hope you'll take advantage of these opportunities to recognize those around you for their contributions.
Keep an eye open for emails announcing the start of the campaign, as well as the arrival of those packets in your office.
And remember that the employee engagement team is open to anyone, and we're always looking for new members. If you'd like to be part of what we're doing or have comments or questions, you can reach us at employee_engagement@mendocinocounty.gov. Hi, I'm Russ.
And I'm Lori.
And we're part of the Employee Engagement Team. The Employee Engagement Team is a voluntary group that's made up of county staff across all levels and from all departments.
This team is the one that puts together the annual employee survey, which helps us find ways to help employees feel heard and appreciated.
In connection with the employee survey, we want to announce the engagement team's spring campaign, which we're calling Gratitude Month. Gratitude Month provides some simple ways for staff to show appreciation to those they work with every day for their help and support.
We all have great colleagues that we work with that make our jobs a little easier or more enjoyable. And Gratitude Month hopes to provide little ways to help recognize those people around us.
Each department will receive a packet with instructions and materials for their common room, including things like a gratitude wall or simple tearaways to help say thank you to someone. We hope you'll take advantage of these opportunities to recognize those around you for their contributions.
Keep an eye open for emails announcing the start of the campaign, as well as the arrival of those packets in your office.
And remember that the Employee Engagement Team is open to anyone, and we're always looking for new members. If you'd like to be part of what we're doing or have comments or questions, you can reach us at employee_engagement@mendocinocounty.gov. Hi, I'm Russ.
And I'm Lori.
And we're part of the Employee Engagement Team. The Employee Engagement Team is a voluntary group that's made up of county staff across all levels and from all departments.
This team is the one that puts together the annual employee survey, which helps us find ways to help employees feel heard and appreciated.
In connection with the employee survey, we want to announce the engagement team's spring campaign, which we're calling Gratitude Month. Gratitude Month provides some simple ways for staff to show appreciation to those they work with every day for their help and support.
We all have great colleagues that we work with that make our jobs a little easier or more enjoyable. And Gratitude Month hopes to provide little ways to help recognize those people around us.
Each department will receive a packet with instructions and materials for their common room, including things like a gratitude wall or simple tearaways to help say thank you to someone. We hope you'll take advantage of these opportunities to recognize those around you for their contributions.
Keep an eye open for emails announcing the start of the campaign, as well as the arrival of those packets in your office.
And remember that the employee engagement team is open to anyone, and we're always looking for new members. If you'd like to be part of what we're doing or have comments or questions, you can reach us at employee_engagement@mendocinocounty.gov. Hi, I'm Russ,
And I'm Lori.
and we're part of the employee engagement team. The employee
Call to order this meeting of the Mendocino County Planning Commission of April 16th, 2026. And may we have a roll call vote, please?
Appreciate
Not a
it.
vote, just a roll
in
call.
connection with the employee survey.
Jocelyn's mic's not working. You want me to turn mine around?
I don't think it is.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay.
All right.
Commissioner Richards,
Here.
Commissioner Jones is absent. Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Wiedemann,
Here.
Chair Pollen.
Here. All right, thank you very much. All right, agenda item number 2. Do we have proper legal notice for today's meeting?
All items on the agenda have been properly noticed.
Great, thank you very much. Agenda item number 3, we're going to have a director's report from the podium today. So Director Krog, your report, please.
Good morning. Just making sure. Yep, microphone's on. Good morning, Julia Krog, Planning and Building Services Director. So a brief update for you on a couple long-range planning items. So one item to be aware of for the Commission at your May 7th meeting, the consultant for the housing element preparation, the 2027 to 2035 housing element, will be coming and doing a presentation. It's meant to be a study session with the Planning Commission as we're in the very early stages. We just had our kickoff meeting with the consultant, so we'll be in front of you for that study session in May. The second item for you to be aware of is that we have an RFP that's closing on next week on Thursday, the 23rd, which is for the updates to the resource management element, which are required updates based on 2 different Assembly and Senate bills regarding open space and circulation. So with those, I think that concludes my director's report, and I'm available for any questions.
Great. Any questions from the commissioners? Have we gotten any proposals in on that?
The resource management?
Yeah.
None yet, since
Okay.
the deadline has not yet come. So
Great. All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you very much. All right, next item on the agenda is matters from the public. Members of the public are welcome to address the Planning Commission on items not listed on the agenda but within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is prohibited by law from taking action on matters not on the agenda. Individuals wishing to address the Planning Commission under matters from the public may do so in person, via email, or Zoom. If there are any members of the public logged into the Zoom meeting who wish to speak under public expression, please use the raise hand feature to allow staff to add you to the meeting. Do we have any requests for telecomment under public expression?
No telecomment received and no hands raised in Zoom.
Thank you very much. Any members of the public wishing to speak on any items not on today's agenda? Seeing no one rush towards the podium, we will move on to agenda item number 5, the consent calendar. This is the approval of our minutes from the February 5th, 2026 meeting. Do any commissioners have any comments on any of those minutes? Any members of the public with any comments on that? All right, I'll invite a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar for today.
I'll second it.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Wiedemann,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
I'm not sure that I don't know how to do
Here,
this.
on the screen here.
Okay.
Close your. Just that little box. There you go.
Yes.
Chair Pollen.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much. All right, agenda item number 6 is the regular calendar. Item 6A is U_2025-0006. This is the Carriera, sorry if I mispronounced that, I'm sure I did. Use permit to allow existing single-family dwelling access from a private road to be used as a short-term rental. I'm going to open the public hearing. Have we received any correspondence and or telephone calls on this item?
We have not received any We have not received anything.
None of any of that. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, I will have a presentation from staff now, please.
All right, good morning. Russ Ford, planning staff. So in front of you this morning is use permit 2025-06, which is a request to use an existing single-family residence as a short-term rental. The project site is located about 5 miles southwest of Ukiah on the east side of State Route 253, also known as Boonville Road, and the residence is addressed as 2401 Boonville Road, Ukiah. The parcel is zoned rural residential with a 10-acre minimum and is assessed at 15.2 acres. It is currently developed with an approximately 5,000 square foot single-family residence and attached garage, enclosed decks, a pool house, outdoor kitchen area, putting green, bocce court, and a detached shop and carport that are not shown in this image. Access to the site is provided by a private road that crosses over the neighboring parcel at 2395 Boonville Road. Per Mendocino County Code Section 20.164.015L regarding room and board, a use permit is required if the parcel does not have frontage on a publicly maintained road. As that is the case for this site, an application for a use permit was submitted in December of 2025. So there are two relatively minor project issues that I want to highlight here. First is that the county does not currently have an exact use classification type matching short-term rentals in its Division 1 code. Although a short-term rental ordinance is actively in development, currently the closest analog is room and board, which is that section 2164.015. In combination with a 2010 memo from the planning director at the time, staff has consistently used interpretation of this section as a pathway for permitting short-term rentals. The Commission may recall a PC action in 2022 that attempted to modify the permitting process for inland short-term rentals, but this action was subsequently overturned on appeal to the Board of Supervisors. Secondly, based on information available from the department's records as well as those of the assessor's office, there appear to be a number of unpermitted additions and improvements that have occurred on this site over the last 15 to 20 years. These concerns have been discussed with the applicant and the new property owners who are amenable to obtaining any after-the-fact permits that may be required. This has also been included in the recommended resolution as condition 19. So with that in mind, staff has several recommendations for the project. First, we recommend that the project is consistent with the use and intent of the rural residential zoning district, as the use will remain classified as residential, and operation of a short-term rental is considered a compatible accessory use. With additional conditions regulating noise, events, and operational hours, the project would not constitute a nuisance or be detrimental to the general welfare of persons in the neighborhood. As an existing structure, the residence complies with development standards and utility requirements, and Condition 19 will bring all unpermitted development into compliance. Therefore, the required use permit findings may be made. With regard to CEQA, staff recommends that the project be found categorically exempt from further review under Section 15301, which includes the operation, permitting, or minor alteration of private structures involving negligible expansion of existing or former use. Staff recommends approval of the project, subject to the conditions of approval in the resolution. And this final slide includes a copy of the recommended motion, and that concludes the staff presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions from any commissioners? Mr. Ford.
I
Diana. Yes, please.
I had a question. Did the neighbor that the property who's adjacent to 253, did they have any input on this request?
Staff has not received any comments.
And they were notified?
Correct.
Okay.
And looking at what the subject parcel currently has, it appears that there was a permit for a manufactured home and also a permit for a single-family home. So how many, and then one of the carport was converted into a guest room, which is, I'm assuming is probably in addition to the primary home? I'm curious how many units are actually on the property?
That's an excellent question. The permit record is a little bit convoluted. There was originally a manufactured home in the late 70s. I believe at one point there were 2 dwelling units. To the best of my interpretation, there's only currently 1 single-family residence, which is the primary one that's shown here. There have been a number of additions to it, including the garage. I think there was a living space that was converted above the garage at some point. There were decks added and then were subsequently enclosed to increase the living space. I think the original house was somewhere around 1,700 square feet, and now we're up to approximately 5,000. So there's been quite a bit of work that's happened.
Will we have an opportunity to talk to the applicant?
Potentially, yeah. I believe
Okay.
they're online.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Richards, do you have any questions? Okay. I just had one quick question on one of the conditions, which was condition 16. That should the operation cease to be used as a short-term rental for a period exceeding 1 year, then this would expire. How will that be determined and verified?
I think the best way would be tracking the business license, because the business license would be required for operation. So if the business license expires and is not renewed for longer than a year, we would consider the operation to have ceased.
Okay, thank you. More, please.
Because I'm not familiar what the protocol is, what is, so we'll talk to staff, potentially, I'm assuming we'll be able to talk to the applicant, and then will we come together for deliberation? Okay, okay. Because as I read through this and hearing your presentation, just to confirm, we don't have an ordinance, correct? Do we have, or how does that work? Because you said you were in the process of putting one together?
Correct, yeah, Russ Ford planning staff. So there's currently no ordinance for the Inland Division 1
Okay.
that deals specifically with short-term rentals. So it's been the department's longstanding practice, along with that director's memo, to use the room and board use type and apply that to short-term rentals, which allows a permitting pathway.
Okay.
There's currently a short-term rental ordinance to address this. It's in the works, but has not been approved yet, so we're still using this existing pathway.
Okay, so when somebody comes in for a short-term rental, when they fill out the application, are there certain requirements? And where I'm leading with this is, I run our short-term rental program in Mill Valley, and we're similar. We don't have an ordinance. We have direction from council. However, one of the things is that, and I reviewing some of the other ordinances in the other counties, is maximum occupancy. So I didn't see any requirement for that, which is one of the issues that we deal with in Mill Valley. And then also the trash. So a requirement as to how that's maintained, like good neighbor policy. Like, is there some kind of, like I didn't see like a project description, or is there certain requirements that the short-term rental applicant is committing to, that if they don't necessarily abide by those, they get it pulled? Aside, more specific, aside from like they exceed the noise ordinance, and just being, or like for trash, one of the issues we have is, if they don't always, we have a lot of absentee landowners.
Mm-hmm.
So when they rent the short-term rental, who's there to make sure that the trash gets taken out so the raccoons don't get into it and it doesn't become a nuisance to the neighbors? So that's essentially why I'm asking. I didn't necessarily see that in the staff report, so I just wanted to know where we were.
Sure, and in this case, with that, going back to that room and board classification, there's a caveat in there that only if the property is not abutting a public road, it requires a use permit, otherwise it's a ministerial action. So there's a lot of these that get business licenses without ever having department review. In this case, they have to go through the use permit process. So the use permit allows the commission to apply whatever conditions it may deem suitable in this case. And so the use permits have their own set of findings that must be made, which includes the nuisance findings and that it's suitable with the zoning. And so that's where we have the opportunity to address things like contact and, responsible parties and trash and things like that.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from commissioners for staff? All right, thank you very much, Russ. I will now, okay.
I have one. Has this parcel been used for vacation rentals already?
Sorry. The department does not have any permitting records for use as a short-term rental.
And has there been a business license taken out?
Not that I saw in the records.
Okay.
All right, I'll now invite the applicant to speak on this item. The applicant in the room or via Zoom?
The applicant is on Zoom.
All right. If you would like to say anything, please announce your name so we know who you are. And
Hey, can you guys hear me?
we can hear you. Go ahead.
Hey, again, thank you very much for taking this. Really great questions. Happy to answer some of them if you wanted. So this is, by the way, Chaitanya and Ravali, who are the property owners. We are both online.
Hello.
So addressing the last questions first. No, I don't believe there was any. So we are the new property owners since 2024, December 2024, and I don't believe there was ever a short-term rental that was run at this place. We are the first ones who are planning to do this. And going back to the other question about how do we plan to address the trash, the nuisance, and all that stuff. So when we plan to launch this short-term rental, we plan to hire a property manager who will be on site, who will be close to somewhere like a 10-minute drive from the property. And in case the neighbors complain about, let's just say, a nuisance guest, the property manager will be quickly accessible. We'll make sure that the neighbors already have our phone numbers, but they'll also have the property manager's phone number. And the property manager will be responsible for taking out the trash. We already have service with the current trash pickups, but any excess trash, the property manager should be able to dispose of it. And also any nuisance, the same thing. Property manager should be able to come in on a short notice and be able to address any of that stuff. We'll make sure that all of the rules that a typical short-term rental will enforce, like no parties, no excess noise, no noise beyond the quiet period after during the evening times. We'll make sure that is clearly laid out in the Airbnb, VRBO, all of these short-term rental property descriptions. We'll make sure that there are cameras and surveillance equipment outside of the property that will monitor some of this stuff. In case there is nuisance, we can obviously work with the neighbors to identify what was the real cause and all of that stuff. So this is different. So if you want us to make it official as part of the application, we can put some of this in writing as well. But as of such, I don't think it is included in the use permit that we asked. Regarding the overall permit structure and all of that stuff, I believe the previous owner has had a K-class permit that he's working. He's also clarifying with the planning commission at the moment, and the building and planning commission, I believe. And we are working through the team right now to navigate all of this stuff. But I'll make sure that we address any of those questions. I'm working with a current permit application agency. To be honest, I'm not really 100% familiar with all of the stuff that you asked about those permits, but I'll make sure that it's addressed properly through the agency that I'm working with. Hopefully that answers some of the questions that is right, but happy to answer any other questions if you guys have it.
Great, thank you very much. Questions from the commissioners for the applicant? All right, Michelle, welcome aboard.
I thank you for your description. I have a question regarding the living units.
If you could speak more directly into your microphone, it'll be easier for everyone.
So is this, first question, are you absentee landlords? Is this something that you bought as just essentially a short-term rental as a additional property, or do you plan to live on the property? That's the first question. Second question is, how many independent living units are on the property? Meaning, are there multiple residents on the property, or is it just the single primary home?
So addressing, thank you for the questions. So addressing the first question, it is going to be mixed use, meaning we will be probably using a part of the, we'll be using it as a vacation home for ourselves as well, because again, we don't expect the short-term rental business to be running throughout the year, because obviously some of the winter time, it's a low period. And the second question is, so there's only one building. So I know there is a second permitted area that we can construct another house, but as of such, it's just one unit. There is no other livable unit outside of the primary residence there.
I didn't understand the last part. Did you say that there's plans?
So it's just one residence. There is no other additional units.
Yeah, it's only one single family home. There's no other place. Yeah.
But you had said something, I thought I heard you say something about
I
construction
believe
at ADU.
so when we bought the house, there is a mention that there is a 2,000 square foot plot that has the permit to build another unit. But as of such, there is nothing that is built.
Yeah, there was a permit taken, but nothing was built when we bought the house.
So in the future, if you do develop that second unit, would your intentions be to have 2 independent short-term rental units?
We don't have any plans to build any, and we are 100% certain of that we don't plan to build a second unit there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wiedemann?
You mentioned you thought the some of the other buildings were permitted through a Class K designation permit. Is that correct?
The previous owner has mentioned that. We haven't made any changes to the property since we bought it. Whatever is there is done through that the previous owner, who is probably the sole owner from the beginning. And in our disclosures, it was mentioned that a Class K permit was initiated on this. Again, this is something that this is a territory that I'm not 100% familiar, to be honest. I'm just reading off the disclosures that we had, and I'm working with the agency to navigate to this permitting process. But I think we did mention that in the application process, though. Okay, thank you. And I'm going to just refer to staff, if I may. My understanding of Class K, if you take a Class K permit out, you cannot use it for rentals. That is in the, I believe it's ordinance, that it's, and it says that on the permits. When you go for a permit, building permit for a Class K, that I believe it cannot be used for rentals. Can I get that verified? That's in the past when I've gotten Class K for clients, that was part of the designation that had to be disclosed. Now,
Good morning, Julia Krog, Planning and Building Service Director, if I may, through the chair. I'll note that under Class K, there's restrictions. It's typically a time restriction. I believe it's 1 year from the date of finalization of your permit that the limitations on Class K being owner occupancy apply. But this is something that we would, of course, be talking through with our building division as they come through to get any after-the-fact building permits out at this site. So that's what I have for this time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
In other words, you're saying, my understanding that it went with the house. And the reason was because a lot of these things that transpired over the years was affordable housing. was a piece of it. So you're saying that it only lasts for a year after the permit was final?
Correct.
Okay. So
Yeah,
I
so-
guess then I'm going to go to the next stage. Has the permit been finalized for the Class K at the building, and when was it?
And I apologize. I don't have that information in front of me. I'll look to.
Russ
City
Ford,
planner.
planning staff. Yeah, the permit for the structure prior to the way that it currently exists was permitted, but as I noted, that there's been a lot of additional work that's occurred to the structure. So I guess the best answer is that it's kind of a gray area. As the structure currently exists, it is not fully permitted, no.
And if I may, I think there's a condition of approval within the recommendations from staff that they have to fully permit the residential structure prior to being able to get a business license for conducting this activity at the site.
Right, and my question is, why doesn't that get completed before it's brought to us? That's kind of my concern.
It's something that can be addressed as part of the discretionary permit. I mean, if this were a project that did not require a discretionary permit, it would most likely require a code violation complaint, and then it would go into code enforcement for, unpermitted work. In this case, because it was a voluntary application, we have the opportunity to address those violations as part of the discretionary permit.
Does that answer your questions?
For now.
Okay. Mr. Johnson.
Questions for me, only because I'm not familiar with the Class K. So if what I'm hearing you say is that the permit that they're going to be seeking for Class K is for additional unpermitted work to this primary residence, which is proposed for the short-term rental. Is that correct?
Russ Ford, planning staff. I cannot speak to what permits will eventually be applied for the total structure. If it's something that they can permit under Class K and the applicants wish to pursue that route, they have the opportunity to apply it that way. If during our building division review they find out that that's not suitable, they'll have to go through the standard residential building permit.
Okay, so if the case is, because I think this is important for the applicant to understand as well, from what I'm hearing you say, that if they were approved for a Class K, then one of the requirements is it'd have to be owner occupied for the first year. So essentially, if we approved a use permit, because the condition of approval would be that they would have to become permitted first, and then if one of the conditions of them becoming permitted with the Class K is that it has to be owner occupied for a year, then potentially we would be approving a use permit today that could potentially not be able to be usable for several years. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding all of this.
Yeah, I understand the question, and I see maybe county council as a thought.
So Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, just from the code, in terms of what's stated there for owner-built, because Class K is limited density owner-built rural dwellings. There's a lot of definitions there, but owner-built means constructed by any person or family to be occupied as the principal residence and not intended for sale, lease, or rent or employee occupancy. Further then, for purposes of this article, if it's rented or sold or occupied by someone different within 1 year of issuance of a certificate of occupancy, that's evidence it was erected for that purpose. So that's where the 1 year comes in. It's assumed that you say up front, this is for your personal occupancy, but then if you actually do rent it out, use it for employee housing after that point in time, within 1 year, then it's evidence you never intended to have it as your primary housing. I think what the condition of approval here is saying is they have to get it permitted, and it's clear they're doing this for at least for the partial purpose of renting it out. I think this is something the building department might have to suss out, but realistically speaking, they may, this could be a long process for them to get a final non-Class K permit, because I think they may have to do that as part of this process. So I'm not sure I could say that dispositively in this hearing, but that's a condition they'll have to meet if this goes forward. And then we'll see how long that takes, if they're able to actually make use of this or ask for an extension of time or a renewal.
Commissioner Wiedemann?
So my understanding from the applicant was that some of the work that was already done has been done through a Class K permit. Whether it was final or not, I don't know, because it's not in my package. I think that information's kind of important, and I think for me, it's difficult to kind of go forward until we get that information. To do justice both for the applicant and also for our county codes. That's why use permits sometimes, are important. So I'll just wait till more information.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission? Richards?
Just briefly, sorry to ask you to repeat yourself, but I was unclear whether or not you were intending to have a project manager on site, or not a project manager, but a property manager on site during the short-term rentals? Sorry.
Not on site, but they'll be close by. They'll be within a 10 to 15-minute drive from the property.
Okay.
Nobody will be living on the property
Right, thank you.
besides the guests.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Just so I'm clear and clarify the matter for all the commissioners, basically what we're saying is one of the conditions is that before this can be granted as a short-term rental, they have to comply with a number of issues that are outstanding with planning and building in terms of permitting. And so if we were to approve this today, the applicant is well aware that they need to comply with all of those terms before this thing is finalized, correct?
Correct. And just to cite condition 19 in the reso, it says prior to issuance of a business license, the property owner or operator shall provide evidence to the Planning and Building Services Department that all required permits for site improvements have been obtained and approved. So if it turns out that they're not eligible to do this through a Class K permit, that would be through the regular residential building permit.
Okay. Deputy County Counsel.
Matthew Kudrowski. With that, just to tag on to the issue of what we agreed know and don't know in terms of what's in the packet, if based on the applicant's statement that this was on title, there was notice that it was built by Class K, that theoretically would only have been issued and recorded at the time of a certificate of occupancy for that core structure. Now, again, I think the process of how to deal with what looks like multiple additions over time to the main structure and how that would work out integrating that prior the core residence with whatever was built around it, that's going to be a building department issue that could be expensive.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Wiedemann.
Yeah. So as of this hearing, do we have a completed, approved building permit for what's on the ground? Via whether it's a standard building permit or a Class K building permit?
No. There are several building permits for the site that have all been finalized, but nothing for the unpermitted work and nothing that's occurred within the last dozen years, I don't think.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Oh, please.
So let's say that the applicant decides not to pursue moving forward with their short-term rental. So meeting the conditions of approval. Now that the county knows that there are some compliance issues with this property, does this now become a compliance issue now that it's been identified, or would that not come into play until in the future until they pull a building permit or decide to do something? I guess what is their path forward? Let's say they're like, this is a lot of work, I don't want to go through this process. Is it already tagged, or is it doesn't become an issue until it is an issue?
Russ Ford, planning staff, I think we would largely defer to code enforcement on that. By board direction, the department is complaint-based, so until there was an active code case opened on it, it would kind of just be a known issue, I think. Obviously, it's in the best interest of the property owner and the applicant to get things squared away now, and rather than wait and potential fee increases in the future, but.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, all right. Well, we are technically still in the applicant presentation portion of the meeting. Anything else from the applicant before we move to public comment?
Nothing from my side.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we will move into public comment now. The commission will now hear public comment on this item. We will start with public comments in the room and then hear from telecommenters that are connected virtually via Zoom. When you are called to speak, please state your name for the record. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Speakers are asked to please address their comments to the meeting chair and refrain from using profanity or engaging in conversation with members of the audience or staff. Do we have any members in the room who wish to speak on this item? Please identify yourself and you'll have 3 minutes.
Yes, my name is Matthew Tellini. I am a neighbor at 2395 Boomville Road. The applicant has an easement through my property to access theirs. I do have quite a few concerns. One, starting with the fire hazard for the area. We're in a high fire danger area. I'm worried with lots of out-of-town people not being aware of how our area is with fire danger. They have had people there. They've been renting since 2024, December, as soon as they took over ownership. They've already had several Airbnb guests for the last year and a half. They have had fires, open fire pits going during August, mountain open fields, high grass, dry grass, very concerning. Also wondering if this project would comply with CAL FIRE. The houses listed on the Airbnb website, listing it as sleeps 20 people. I've seen every time they have guests, Roto-Rooter has to show up because the septic system is not designed for that, to handle that many people. It overflows and it's nearby our creek, so I have concerns about that as well. Guests have several times been trespassing on our property, walking because they don't know the boundaries, driving very recklessly on our property because they're lost. We have concerns about liability. If someone gets in an accident while they're on our property, who's liable for that? There's extra wear and tear on our road. It's a shared road. I don't think they've, helped. They need the maintenance. Also, noise. They've had several occasions. They've had over 40 people there staying at the house. They kept us up all night, me and my family, and woke us up from dead sleep in the middle of the night, just being loud, hooting, hollering, just carrying on all night long. We lived there for 14 years. It's been very peaceful in our neighborhood, and now they're bringing a party house right next door, and we're against the permitting of this.
Thank you very much. All right, do we have any other members of the public in the room who wish to speak on this item? Okay.
Can he hand that in?
Yeah, would you, is that the printout? That's the printout showing the Airbnb listing? Hand that to the clerk.
So we can ask questions of our witness.
We don't typically ask questions of the public comment, but sure,
Okay.
we can, yeah. Mr. Tellini would like to come back up. We have some questions.
I was just wondering if you could give us a time frame on the issues that you just told us about as far as noise, traffic.
It's been going on since they've started renting it, and as soon as they've took ownership. Several occasions. They don't have people there every day. A lot of time it's rented on a weekly basis, or sometimes just people are up for the weekend, seems like. There's several occasions where there's been, over 20 people there. We've seen 20 cars there, so there's probably 40 to 50 people staying at the house at certain times. And the most recent instance where we've had issues with people keeping us up all night was February 22nd, 21st. It was a weekend, and they were. I went outside on the back porch, and I can hear them. Sound carries very, very well in our neighborhood, especially late at night. And there's about 20 people out on the back deck just having a partying, being very loud, and woke us up from our bedrooms as we had all the windows and doors shut because it was wintertime, and we could still hear them through our walls. So that was the most recent instance. Before that, there's been, I'd say, probably half a dozen other times where they've been keeping us up late at night. This is a very expensive rental. It's $7,000 for a week. So the people that are renting it are gathering probably more people than they're saying that they're going to be bringing, just so they can help afford the payment for the rental. And I don't see that stopping. The new owners bought the property with no intentions of ever living there. They bought it for a rental, for a vacation rental. That was their intentions from the get-go. Talking to the real estate agent as well. Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, and I'll come to you. Can you use the microphone just so people that aren't in the room can
I
hear you?
apologize.
It's okay.
Have you, when these occurred, was there, who did you, what did you try to contact? Did you have, did you know who, good neighbor policy, did you know who was responsible for this or who you could contact if you had concerns? And did you try?
I've met the owners maybe once. I didn't have his phone number till recently. After the last incident, I acquired it, so I can let him know what's going on over there and address my concerns. Also, I didn't bring the paper. There's reviews on Airbnb website since December of 2024.
Commissioner Weidman?
Yes, I thank you for your input. And how did you know about this meeting? Were you notified through the mail?
Yes, I received a letter in the mail.
Okay, great. Well, that's why, and I'm just going to say this. This is why we do use permits, so neighbors get notified, and it's not an administrative permit. And this is a perfect example of the information we just got from a neighbor who's impacted that we wouldn't have gotten if we didn't have a use permit process here. So thank you for giving us the information. And you're the property next to 253, I take it, or are you farther in?
We border them. We're just off of 253.
Okay.
But we have our property's kind of an odd shape. But we have they access their property through a piece of our.
Yes. So they have to cross your property. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for hearing me.
I have one question for you. I don't know, have you seen the conditions that are in there for the approval of this permit? Should it be granted? And I guess, namely, there's one that says it was about amplified music, and I'm curious if there's no amplified music permitted between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. Would that address the concerns or not?
The last incident, I don't recall there being music, but just the people talking loudly and hoot and holler and carrying on was louder than music.
Okay.
So that was the issue.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions for Mr. Tellini? Okay, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, any other members of the public in the room wishing to speak? Seeing no one. Do we have anyone on Zoom?
There's no one on Zoom with their hands raised.
All right. Well, then I will close the public comment period. Staff, do you have any final remarks?
Available for discussion.
Thank you. Do we have any final remarks from the applicant? Are you still on Zoom?
Nothing, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, any additional questions for staff or the applicant from commissioners? Commissioner Johnson?
And it might be premature to have this, since you guys are still working on an ordinance. But who monitors, like, for instance, we have a third party, we work with host compliance, so that when stuff like this with the BRB, they send us a list of whom is renting. You know, the challenge to short-term rentals is staffing. Who's going to manage all of this? I mean, that's why we don't have an official ordinance yet. It's because it's like, if you impose all these rules and nobody's there to comply them, then it's all for naught. So I was just curious as to, you know, when you see stuff like this, what would be the protocol? You know, clearly, let's say that they weren't coming for a use permit and you got a complaint from the neighbor saying, hey, I think that a use permit's required for my neighbor to be operating short-term rental. If they don't have one, what would be your guys' next steps? And would there be a fine involved? Just you know, to know for reference moving forward.
Sure. Thank you, Russ Ford, planning staff. So in the scenario where it didn't require a use permit, if it was just a ministerial use, they accessed a public road, that would just go to a code complaint. They would really, all they would need is a business license. You may be aware that the county is currently working on a noise ordinance, which may help to address some of these. Sorry.
So Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, sorry to interrupt. So the county is, I think, second reading of the noise ordinance is coming, but there's kind of two parts to your question. One was, and I want to let Russ start with, I don't know what the issue would be from code enforcement if we had a complaint on someone's running a short-term rental that is off of a private road. The noise ordinance itself, it's essentially, I'm hearing that was the 4.7 was the second reading, so we're still waiting for it to be effective. But in general, it's going to be calling the sheriff and for a complaint, and there will be a citation process for that. We'll be working on procedures to see how that interacts more with things like short-term rentals and other issues that might require more planning and permitting. But the noise ordinance itself won't be a panacea for noise issues in any part of the county. It's just been giving us a mechanism to do some kind of a citation process to hopefully get those things in line. Beyond that, in terms of, here, if there's something going on with compliance with these conditions, if the permit has to first be issued, they have to then secondarily get the house permitted, which we're noting is in an uncertain pathway. They wouldn't be able to and should not be renting it right now. And then lastly, once it's issued, it'd be subject to revocation. I believe there was a 2-year time limit. It's a condition of approval, so it's a fairly short time window for most of our use permits. And if we were hearing that there were violations, this could be brought before the commission for revocation.
So to answer your question, there currently is no process for that.
No, I'm ready to make a motion. It is in my district, believe it or not. Yeah. So based on the information shared, and we may have to take a break on how to write this motion, I move to deny the request for this to get a vacation rental permit on this property. That I think there's a lot of infractions that have taken place. I think that they're already advertising without a permit. So it's not good faith neighbors, and that's what I'm making a move to make the motion, but we may need to break to get, if I get a second, we may need to break to get it written up properly.
I have to repeat that. Deputy County Council Matthew Kudrowski. So that being said, yes, to clarify, the motion, I think a tentative motion for denial is a starting point. We have to have the bases that match what one of the findings or one or more of the findings we can't make. So we could try and bring those up on the screen in terms of maybe the code sections or the wording of those findings, but we'd have to be just taking the facts we're hearing today and applying them to those findings for a motion for denial. If that's something we can work on today, it's one thing we could take direction and bring this back at the next meeting for action as well.
Can I ask for a 5-minute break while I look through? Is that okay?
Sure. All right. We're going to adjourn for 5 minutes. We'll come back at 10:30 a.m.
Together the annual employee survey, which helps us find ways to help employees feel heard and appreciated.
In connection with the employee survey, we want to announce the engagement team's spring campaign, which we're calling Gratitude Month. Gratitude Month provides some simple ways for staff to show appreciation to those they work with every day for their help and support.
We all have great colleagues that we work with that make our jobs a little easier or more enjoyable. And Gratitude Month hopes to provide little ways to help recognize those people around us.
Each department will receive a packet with instructions and materials for their common room, including things like a gratitude wall or simple tearaways to help say thank you to someone. We hope you'll take advantage of these opportunities to recognize those around you for their contributions.
Keep an eye open for emails announcing the start of the campaign, as well as the arrival of those packets in your office.
And remember that the employee engagement team is open to anyone, and we're always looking for new members. If you'd like to be part of what we're doing or have comments or questions, you can reach us at employee_engagement@mendocinocounty.gov. Hi, I'm Russ.
And I'm Lori.
And we're part of the Employee Engagement Team. The Employee Engagement Team is a voluntary group that's made up of county staff across all levels and from all departments.
This team is the one that puts together the annual employee survey, which helps us find ways to help employees feel heard and appreciated.
In connection with the employee survey, we want to announce the engagement team's spring campaign, which we're calling Gratitude Month. Gratitude Month provides some simple ways for staff to show appreciation to those they work with every day for their help and support.
We all have great colleagues that we work with that make our jobs a little easier or more enjoyable. And Gratitude Month hopes to provide little ways to help recognize those people around us.
Each department will receive a packet with instructions and materials for their common room, including things like a gratitude wall or simple tearaways to help say thank you to someone. We hope you'll take advantage of these opportunities to recognize those around you for their contributions.
Keep an eye open for emails announcing the start of the campaign, as well as the arrival of those packets in your office.
And remember that the Employee Engagement Team is open to anyone, and we're always looking for new members. If you'd like to be part of what we're doing or have comments or questions, you can reach us at employee_engagement@mendocinocounty.gov. Hi, I'm Russ.
And I'm Lori.
And we're part of the Employee Engagement Team. The Employee Engagement Team is a voluntary group that's made up of county staff across all levels and from all departments.
This team is the one that puts together the annual employee survey, which helps us find ways to help employees feel heard and appreciated.
In connection with the employee survey, we want to announce the engagement team's spring campaign, which we're calling Gratitude Month. Gratitude Month provides some simple ways for staff to show appreciation to those they work with every day for their help and support.
We all have great colleagues that we work with that make our jobs a little easier or more enjoyable. And Gratitude Month hopes to provide little ways to help recognize those people around us.
Each department will receive a packet with instructions and materials for their common room, including things like a gratitude wall or simple terraways to help say thank you to someone. We hope you'll take advantage of these opportunities to recognize those around you for their contributions.
Keep an eye open for emails announcing the start of the campaign, as well as the arrival of those packets in your office.
And remember that the employee engagement team is open to anyone, and we're always looking for new members. If you'd like to be part of what we're doing or have comments or questions, you can reach us at employee_engagement@mendocinocounty.gov. Hi, I'm Russ,
And I'm Lori.
and we're part of the Employee Engagement Team. The Employee Engagement Team is a voluntary group that's made up of county staff across all levels and from all departments.
This team is the one that puts together the annual employee survey, which helps us find ways to help employees feel heard and appreciated.
In connection with the employee survey, we want to announce the engagement team's spring campaign, which we're calling Gratitude Month. Gratitude Month provides some simple ways for staff to show appreciation to those they work with every day for their help and support.
We all have great colleagues that we work with that make our jobs a little easier or more enjoyable. And Gratitude Month hopes to provide little...
The digital realm, great, thank you. All right.
We'll receive a packet with instructions and materials for their comment.
Commissioner Richards, did you have something you want, if we pause for on your request, is there something you wanted to bring forward now, or? Okay. Commissioner Johnson?
Well, I'm ready to second her motion to deny the request as currently proposed, because I don't believe that the findings can be made, and the findings that I believe are relevant that with the conditions of approval, I realize that we can meet some of them, but without additional information, I believe that we can't demonstrate that this won't constitute a nuisance or be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare. I think potentially that while I know that we reached out to CAL FIRE, I've also worked up here in reaching out to CAL FIRE. Sometimes it takes a little bit of prodding to get information back from them. And so, especially in conditions that we've had, I think that that's a real relevant concern. In addition to I entertain the idea of adding a condition in regards to occupancy, which I think it's important moving forward. But we don't really have anything to go off of, meaning like the County of Sonoma, they have a maximum of 2 people per bedroom with an addition of 2 guests with a maximum of 12. But I think it's hard to go, we're kind of just grasping at that, so we don't really have anything to come to, in my opinion, to come to a conclusion as to the right amount of people there. In regards to the nuisance, and the idea of updating the ordinance, the noise ordinance, is great. However, I don't think that we should impose additional strain on our sheriff's department by allowing such. So yes, I know that they can get called, but they've got a lot of area to cover, and to pull them away from other things to address a noise ordinance that we could potentially, that we somewhat allowed based upon. I think we need additional information and metrics in order to make that determination. And then also D, the adequate utilities access road. This crossed my mind. You know, this is unique in that there is an easement across somebody else's property. So the neighbor is intimately impacted by this. And if you think of somebody being there for a week and them having 40 guests, that's 40 additional cars coming and going, and traveling, not knowing the parameters. I'm not to say that in the future that this couldn't potentially get approved, but I think based upon the information that we have today, I don't feel that we could adequately condition it to meet these findings.
I had heard a recommendation or a request perhaps from staff that we continue this item to a date certain so that staff can have a chance to draft this denial in a more comprehensive manner. Is that correct?
Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski. I think that would be, staff would appreciate that. That drafting on the fly is always a lot of fun, except that it's not. That being said, I have a couple of points in response. I think that we're making findings to deny. If there's the idea that we could get more information on certain things, we could always continue for that to see if there's more information to obtain. So if we needed to get additional information from CAL FIRE and there was a request for us to reach back out to them, I might say, as opposed to making a finding that CAL FIRE didn't respond, I might say, well, I would make a continuance to try and get that response from CAL FIRE. Separately, the size or the number of occupants concern, I think that ties into what we're hearing about the septic system. Environmental Health didn't respond on this permit. And I think it's whether we come back as a continuance or with a recommendation for a denial, staff might reach out to Environmental Health, see what they have on file or not, and that could be used as kind of either the basis for a condition on occupancy, or frankly that this shouldn't be, whether there's information or lack of information, that this shouldn't even be allowed, given the size that is being currently posted. I would say I would advise against using the noise issue as stated as the reason for denial, because that frankly might end up looking like a de facto moratorium on short-term rentals if we don't think that could be used for any possible denial. So there's some comments in there, and I'm happy. I think staff would want to get all the information we can, because the main goal for what we're looking at for the commission is the best resolution it can adopt in the event that there's an appeal of this project to the board.
I'm going to go Commissioner Wiedemann, and then I'll come to you, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you.
So what I also want to get in the reason for denial is it's a nuisance to the neighbor, because that's part of the room and board. Why we're here is because they don't have access to, one reason, to a county road. So they are crossing over the neighbor's parcel who has shared their concerns and their complaints, and they have proven without even a permit a nuisance. So I actually, I think we could deny this with the information we have here, rather than having to go back. What I don't want to do is go back and water it down somehow to get an approval, because I think this is not a good faith actor.
Sorry, Deputy County Counsel to respond, and that's fine. We'll take the direction from the commission. If the direction is to draft a denial resolution, that's what we'll do, assuming there's the vote to support that. So it's just making sure the time to support that. The issue of the private road, it's a complicated issue when it comes to these permits, because that's a private easement issue, typically speaking. And at some level, whether or not, in this situation, given the size of the house and the at least currently shown renting of it, at that level, that's not supportable by the septic system, for one. Or, but that would also be something on a private road. If someone had a large family off of a private road and are using it more than others, then that's technically a civil action or issue between the landowners about maintenance of that private road. So we want all these things to be voiced by the commission, and if there's any thoughts we have that whether or not some are more or less supportable, then we would bring that back to the commission as part of our recommendation.
Can I make one comment, and then I'll pass it over to you?
Everybody has stolen my thunder today.
Oh, well, here, no, go. You go.
I'm the quietest. No.
Oh, I was just going to.
I'm joking. Go
Oh,
ahead.
okay. I was just going to say that I think that, especially in terms of preserving this, should it be appealed to the Board of Supervisors, I think that giving staff time to draft a more thorough denial motion would be in our best interest, and I understand your concern about not wanting to just water this down or give time for potential approval to happen, but if we're trying to create the best record that we can, I think not doing it on the fly could be helpful. So that would be my inclination. All right, Commissioner Richards.
The only thing I can add is that we had very credible evidence of already nuisances, violations, etc. And perhaps we should point out in our findings that the owner was given an opportunity to respond and rebut, and there was nothing. So I'm glad Mr. Tellini showed up today. But the owner did have nothing to say in response, and I think that that's telling also.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Wiedemann, as the maker of the motion, I'm going to let you decide what direction you want to give to staff now, and then we can see where the commission stands on that.
So, Chairman Pollen, I hear what you're saying in the sense of a tighter document, and that would be helpful if it gets appealed. Can't imagine it getting appealed because there's so many violations that are such red flags at this point.
We've had some weirder things get appealed before, but
yeah, right. So, and my concern is, I really don't have anything else to say. Is any other commissioner?
Commissioner Johnson.
Well, in listening to council, I don't know. I am more amendable to having this continued to a later date, and for the reason is, you know, with the purpose of the use permit, and if it doesn't mean that, you know, the applicant, you know, is owning the violations that are there, and yes, they operated without, but we don't have strict guidelines as to what they need to do, and so here's an opportunity to request that in regards to them providing a good neighbor plan, having a property manager already on staff. And so if all of this is conditioned and there's another complaint, that use permit's pulled and it's a done deal. And then we've done it the right way. We've been given them, because it takes a little bit more time, and we didn't get a comment from Fire. It's hard. CAL FIRE is inundated as well. So to follow through, and with the septic, we're making a determination based upon assumptions because we didn't hear back. But if we put that onus back onto the applicant and let staff work with the applicant to provide that detail, and they may provide that detail that says that they can't do it. And the big thing is to come up with a number for occupancy. At limiting them to 12 people like other counties do, that's not uncommon with that size of a house to have a family that big, and to be sure that we're not denying people reasonable property rights. So I think that it doesn't mean that we're going to approve it next time, but I think it would be of value to provide more information, and I think it would provide us more basis to make defensible findings of denial. So,
Commissioner Wiedemann.
Yes, I just want to respond to that. The problem is our county's not prepared to do what you're asking right now, okay? And so you're going down a long-term kind of a windy road, and we're waiting to even get a rewrite of the room and board ordinance. That's what we're working on here, right? And so, and we have a bifurcated county politically. That's known, not new. So my concern is I feel like a bad actor asking us for a use permit for a vacation rental that's clearly impacting the neighborhood and no address to it. I think from where I am, I kind of want to take care of the good actors here. And the good actor is a neighbor who is impacted, plus maybe other neighbors. I don't know. But there's too many red flags here. I feel like I would be negligent as a planning commissioner to put this back and say, hey, maybe we could write. I totally agree we need better, clear ordinances, right, to address this. But I've been working in the county probably for 35 years, since the 79 on these issues. And they're still not clear. And they're still So I guess I just am wanting to finish this, deny it on the basis what we said. I don't think we need to give any more reasons, and it doesn't have to come back to us right now. I mean, we have so many other things we need to really work on to get this thing moving forward on land use issues.
All right. So there is a motion to deny today, but we would need to have something drafted by staff for us to approve. So are you still suggesting that we take that path, or would you like to provide guidance to staff to draft that and bring it back at a date in the future?
I'm fine for them to bring it back to us in the future as a denial.
Okay.
But not to open it up again.
I hear you. Great. Commissioner Richards, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. Do we need to take a vote on that, or is this a tentative? Is it a tentative deny? Yeah. I'm sorry. Where are we procedurally on this one?
I think technically we have a motion on the floor with a second. We might want to have that motion clarified and see if the second still agrees with the motion. Putting the motion together in my head, I think it's a motion to continue this item to a date certain. And I think we're thinking May 7th, with the direction to staff to prepare a resolution for denial based on the parameters and reasons given at today's hearing. Possibly with the additional direction to staff to look into the septic issue or other issues raised, and then have that brought forth on May 7th.
I'm not going to be here on May 7th, so can we carry it to the June meeting?
May 21st would also be an option.
I can't do May
The whole May,
21st.
okay. So June 4th would be the first
That'd be
one in
great.
June if the commission
be great.
prefers that.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second.
I just
Oh,
wanted
please.
clarification on what you had stated, and what you just stated in the potential motion. Was suggested that staff come back with conditions or findings for denial in addition, however, to look into the septic. But that to me would lead us to believe that the decision is not definitive. So before we don't want to take staff's time to go unless he feels that that's necessary in order to provide defensible findings. I just want to make sure that we're clear as to what the expectation is when we come back to the date uncertain.
So Deputy County Counsel Matthew Kudrowski, I call it septic because that's something that we have in the record as a concern raised by the neighbor, and even to the idea that maybe overflowing or impacting the property. So what I was trying to do is say that while the commission has raised certain points in particular, we have other issues in the record that were raised as well. And in the process of drafting this resolution for denial and making those findings, to be able to look at the entire record that was before the commission for the basis of those findings.
Okay. Have a motion. Is it clear what we're?
It's clear, and I think since I'm the one who seconded it, so I maintain that second based upon what your direction was to bring it back to a date uncertain, with additional clarification on the septic and also on the fire hazard, reaching out to CAL FIRE again.
So what I'll try and do for the record, mainly for Jocelyn, and when this goes into the minutes, is to kind of restate that. So we have, because the second made a comment, uses the word uncertain. So right now, we are looking at a motion for continuance to a date certain. That's June 4th. June 4th, with direction to staff to bring back a resolution with findings for denial based on the evidence that was presented in the record today by the commenter and by the commission.
Well said. That's correct.
Okay. All right. Good work. All right. So we have a motion and we have a second. Is it clear what the motion and the second is? Just okay. Great. All right. Can we call a vote, please?
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wiedemann?
Yes.
Commissioner Richards?
Yes.
Chair Pollen?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Item number 6B, maybe we're ready for this one, would be the nomination of one member of the Planning Commission to sit on the Airport Land Use Commission. Well, Commissioner Johnson, this is your first meeting and you're just coming on board, but we have been putting off on nominating someone because it has typically been the commissioner from your district that sits on that commission because of the location of the Ukiah Airport. Are you interested in serving on that commission? Are you willing to sit on that commission?
Well, my question is, when are the meetings?
Since I'm the other commissioner on this, this year it'll be one meeting. So it's usually like there's one today at 2:00. But when we did the airport plan, we met often, but we haven't done that. And so it's hardly any impact. It's maybe 1 or 2 meetings a year.
Yes, I can commit to that. Yeah, absolutely.
County Council.
So Deputy County Council Matthew Kudrowski, to add some more to that, I mean, they're scheduled, I think it's once a month, scheduled to happen on the same day as a planning commission meeting at 2:00. I forget if it's the first or second meeting. I think it's second meeting, we're fairly certain. And we can always do specials if need be. There are tight time windows to review projects that do make it to the Airport Land Use Commission. In general, we've been canceling most meetings a year. Most projects, there are a few projects that do implicate airport land use at this point. And the city of Ukiah is by far the most active with projects around the airport, and a lot of those things do stay within the city's permit process on their own and don't go to the ALEC anymore in general.
So the challenge to that is I actually have a pre-scheduled meeting on Thursdays with my primary job, which is from 1:30 to 2:30. So that's I would be happy to. I can't commit to that time.
So that would be the issue of whether or not the meetings do start at 2:00, and it would be, if they're starting on a regular basis, whenever it does happen, it's 2:00 on the third Thursday of the month.
And for what it's worth, and I'm sure the times could be flexible.
If the times were flexible, I would be happy to do it. But it's a departmental meeting, and so an interdepartmental meeting, and I have no flexibility to change that time. If the times were different, I'd be happy to do it. We have 2 meetings a week, and that happens to be one of the times. So if that changes, I'm on board. If not, I can't compromise. I can't commit to that because I don't know that I'm going to be available during that time.
Okay, we can get some information and follow up with you.
Commissioner Wiedemann?
Yes, I had asked previous if we could reschedule the time, and I believe, and you could help me out here, that it was kind of fixed at 2 p.m. And, we did get our commission meeting moved a little bit. We got a half hour, right? Either way, right? That was a compromise, 9:30.
Well, we went from 9 till 10 in the winter
Oh.
and 9:30 in the summer.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm looking at you because you're the one who could give us some direction.
If I may, through the chair, Adrienne Thompson, Planning and Building Services. The Planning Commission times were changed due to a bylaw correction, so I would have to work with County Council and see if airport land use also has a bylaw regulation start, and if we by that.
So Deputy County Council, I'd have to look back at that, look and double check that before the next meeting, without me just sitting looking for files. I believe we have just bylaws and that's all. The only, we can come back and report on what the flexibility is there. We could, maybe change to the first meeting of the month, but if the issue is a conflict at 2:00, the concern is how much later do we push a standardized meeting? Given, they don't happen often, but we don't know how long they go when they do go.
Can we move it up? What's like just your?
So it's only on Thursdays. So move it up, meaning like, well, my limitation is, you know, aside from this, I work remotely today, but every other Thursday I'm in. I work remotely Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So Thursdays are a bit of a challenge. And I certainly don't want you guys changing your rules to accommodate my schedule. So potentially, if it were on a Thursday that we had planning commission, and it were, but it could be before this. So, because essentially, which I don't know is reasonable. If we have 9:30 to potentially 12 designated for planning commission, and my other meeting starts at 1.
Yeah,
It makes this day Thursdays are a challenge, which is unfortunate. Otherwise, I'd be happy to do it.
Right.
Well, it seems like we're not ready to take a vote on nominating a member to the airport commission today. Perhaps, Deputy County Counsel, you can look into whether or not it would require a bylaw amendment, and if so, what that would entail. And we could look at, I've never been to one meeting, so I'm not sure how long they run, but if it was possible, I don't know if a 3 o'clock start would work for your time, and if that doesn't seem too constrained, perhaps we can make something work, because Commissioner Wiedemann's been holding it down on her own for so long. She needs some support there.
Well, you know, would like 3 o'clock help you?
Yeah, 3 o'clock, again, on the days that we have a planning commission
Yes.
meeting, because those are the days that I work remotely.
That would be the only day I
Yeah,
agree to
3 o'clock
come
would be
up with. Yeah.
perfect.
Okay, so why don't we look into that?
Great.
Okay.
All right, we're making progress. Okay, all right. Well, then we're going to move to the next item, which is agenda item number 7, matters from staff. Anything from staff?
Nothing from us today.
Thank you very much. Any matters from commissioners? All right. Then agenda item 9 is adjournment. I'll invite a motion to adjourn.
Here, let me speak today. I move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Carries unanimously. All right. Thank you. We'll see everyone next time. Good job up in the hot seat today, Russ.
Yeah.